Hey guys, thanks for going on this nerd journey with me. If you want your episodes ad-free, go to makemeanerd.com/join and hit that button.
Hooked on you, baby, you're golden. Time moves, I never noticed. Just can't get enough. Got me wonderstruck.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Make Me a Nerd. I'm Mandy Kaplan, a mainstream mom whose mission it is to explore the world of nerd culture that I've been missing out on and afraid of my whole life. If you're new to the podcast, this is how it works. I bring on someone who is passionate and nerdy about something, and they see if they can recruit me to that fandom. And my guest today reached out, having heard of this podcast, wanted to come and see if he could make me a nerd. It is author Rick London. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Mandy. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. It's an honor. Thank you.
Oh, I'm honored. I in my intro, I always say the stuff I've been missing out on and afraid of. And we watched Alien Earth, which is a series from the Alien world, which I have lots of questions about. But there's a reason I'm afraid of stuff like this. This show is so scary. The creatures are so horrifying. My most common observation and note was the dripping. There's so much liquid and goo dripping at
Oh, yeah.
all times in the show. It's like hard to.
They really, I was really impressed with the show. There was a lot of chatter about it, right, before it came out, because people love that. There's so many fans of that Alien franchise. I'm one of them. And there was a lot of chatter, that it's going to really be good. And then I read about it. Supposedly, they spent about $250 million for a TV series. Could you believe
I
that?
can see it.
About
Mhm.
$250 million on 8 episodes. And they really outdid themselves, I believe, with the everything they did, and then bringing in these new creatures that are just, oh my god, they're lethal. They're just, you're just like, you're squirming. Even
Ugh.
people, it's not just the xenomorph from Alien, it's the other creatures that are even deadlier to me.
You can't, the listeners can't see me, but I don't know how I'm going to do a podcast. Like, I keep wanting to go, "Ugh," I'm squirming. They were so gross. Okay. So you're a big fan of the Alien franchise, which is another thing. Right before we pressed record, I was telling you there are just blind spots in my viewing, The Godfather and Psycho. And that's what this podcast is so, it's just so satisfying to catch up and see all of these things. So Alien is definitely one of those things, except one of my first episodes was Aliens. That's the second one, right?
I love that one. Yeah, that's the Sigourney Weaver. Yeah, I love that. Well, she's in all of them, but that's the one where they go back and they have to fight a multitude of xenomorphs. And yeah, I love that one too. But it started with Alien, right? The one, it's 1979.
So I didn't see that one, but I saw the second one because my guest preferred the second one and chose it, and I do whatever my guests tell me. Where does this fit in the alien world? Because they mention Wayland Yutani,
Mm-hmm.
and fun fact, I was sitting next to my husband watching it, and he was confused, and I said, "Honey, Wayland Yutani, that's from Aliens, like the corporation," and we call that nerd progress in my line of work. I was so proud of myself that I was explaining it to him from having seen it. This is far in the future?
Well, no. So it takes place in 21. Let me see. Is it 2120? So it takes, yeah. Let's see, 2120. So it's I believe the the very first movie, the Alien one from 1979. I believe that takes place in 2122. So what I
This
really
is
liked
prequel
about,
stuff?
yeah. So it's, yeah.
Oh,
So what I really like about this Alien Earth, it's kind of paid homage to. They went back to, to Alien, all the sets. If you look at the sets, before I go any further, when you get a chance, Mandy, see the original. You got to see Alien.
okay.
You think you're squirming now wait till you. There's some. I'm not gonna mention it to you, but There's one scene that's like the most classic scene in cinematic history. One of the most classic scene. You got to see it. Everybody's been talking about it since it came out.
Okay.
Um, and, you know, and it's a brilliant. It's a brilliant concoction. I feel, you know, the the script that they came up with, this creature who comes, you know, he's small, comes out, and then he grows into like this 7-8 foot monster with this tail. He's, you know, that he's like a bug, right? He's like a giant bug.
Oh,
He
I
can
know they're
crawl up
all
anything.
bugs. Oh,
Yeah. But he has that tongue that comes out, right? Because he has that elongated head that he needs to
this is
shoot
the
out his tongue with
original you're
the
talking about
when on all of them, right?
in
If you
all of them.
watch
So
Alien
the
Earth, right? He has
the
that
big
tongue, and
bad
then the
guy.
tongue
Okay.
has
Yeah.
the teeth. It has
Yeah.
its own set of jaws, right?
Ugh.
And then blood for acid, you know, acid for blood. Oh my God, that's just brilliant. So I recommend go back and watch the very first one, and then that'll set you up for the whole thing, and you'll be like, oh my God, where did they come up with this? It's a brilliant it's a brilliant concoction. It's what, you know. It's funny, you I was listening to one of your podcasts, and a gentleman mentioned Jaws, two of the greatest, most horrific creatures of all time. Jaws 1975, the shark that really
Hmm.
exists in our world,
Right.
and then this one 1979, right? Two of
Okay.
the, yeah, in the 70s.
Well, Alien Earth, the series, is Noah Hawley, who
Mm-hmm.
I am a fan of from Fargo. He
Mm-hmm.
is a very visionary, smart. He creates worlds rather than just stories. I mean, he's a pro at this. He did Legion, which was what I did my very first episode of Make Me a Nerd about.
Wow.
So if everyone wants to hear how this journey began with Noah Hawley, and here we are almost 2 years later doing Noah Hawley, it's he is he's such a talent, and he builds these worlds in such a way that you're dropped in and you feel like you're living in them. But I have a question about the tech and the sets. They look very 1980s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's almost dot matrix, the way the computer screens look.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because the original movie was with that tech?
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's what's beautiful about it. So you'll know, you'll see the similarity when you see the first movie. Like again, I believe they paid homage, is it, I think it's pronounced homage, I believe, to the first movie. Yeah, all the sets looked just like the ship in the first movie, you know, claustrophobic, like almost like 20th century technology.
It's what
Uh,
they thought the future would look like in
yeah,
1980.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
Yeah,
That
because
makes
you know
a
in
lot of
70,
sense because a lot of this technology was felt very dated, but that
yeah,
makes sense now.
yeah, because in '79, you know, they didn't have CGI, they didn't have AI, so you know everything was keyboard, everything was,
Right.
yeah. But I like it that they kept it to that. They went back to that, and so I think I believe, before I go further, that Noah Hawley,
Uh-huh.
I agree with you. What a talent, right? I
Yes.
mean, this whole setup with this production. I mean, wow, they got like the most talented people to get this story going, right?
Oh,
You know, they
absolutely.
went all out. That 250 million was well spent, and the series did great. And yeah, the sets they were all made. A lot of them were handmade. They used animatronics. They used puppets. They even had a gentleman go back in the suit, you know, wear the alien suit. Everything was done almost like it was like 1979.
I
And
mean, their liquid budget alone for all of the drooling, that had to be 200 million. The dripping and the drooling and the oozing. I can't it was and the sound design of all of those things was so vivid that you could hear the oh, Rick.
that
Woo.
that was the goal. It's the goal. It's to set. It's like again, it's the same setup as the first movie. Is to get you on edge, right? Is to
Yeah,
get you on edge, even at home, right? Because it was on FX. Even
but
at
it's
home, you were like,
immersive, yeah.
you couldn't relax. You were like on the edge of your seat, like,
No.
oh my God, what's gonna happen next? And oh man, and then the creatures, and you know, Alien is just about the xenomorphs, but this series just introduced these other creatures that are just ridiculously just lethal. I mean, beyond imagination, right?
Okay, so the premise of this series, just for those out there who haven't seen it or are interested, it's basically whichever of the three species currently prevails determines which corporation will rule. That's what it says, like as it started. Um, I very, very quickly lost track of what species was which, and I found it hard to follow because the heart of the pilot and the series, in my mind, is that there's a madman named Boy Cavalier,
Hmm.
and I want to talk about him, but he finds a way to take sick children, dying terminal kids, and implant their minds into healthy robots, essentially, who look like adults. And
Hmm.
that's going to give them eternal life and they will be invincible. Am I correct on all of this so far?
No, that's the yep, that's the arc that it followed. Yes.
Nailing it. That to me is so meaningful and emotional. Um, and these actors who are all kids, essentially their age levels vary from 8 to 14 or something.
Hmm.
Um, they are all so charming and vulnerable, and yet they're these badass adult looking creatures. And that's what was, for me, very gripping about the show.
Oh, I love that. That was a great intro there. I mean, I never expected that that it's like, and you're rooting for them, right? You're like, there's these kids,
Oh,
they're
how
just
could you not? They're children.
yeah, they're children, right? And then they get put in these bodies that'll last forever. And then
But then
Wendy
they're
B.
being used,
Yeah, yeah, but
right? As
it's more like
mercenaries or,
it's more like an experiment, right? Because there's
yeah,
always an end game to everything, right? There was an agenda behind it all, right? And yeah, that was brilliant because it introduced Wendy, who's the lead, and then
played by Cindy Chandler, who
she
is
was great.
exquisite.
She
I
was
don't
great.
know this actress, but damn, is she good?
It kind of follows the same way like Alien, right? The first movie when it came out, it was unknown actors mostly, right? Even
Yeah, that was her
Sigourney
first.
Weaver was not
Ripley, that was
known.
her first big
Yeah,
job.
nobody was
Unbelievable.
really known. They had Yaphet Kotto in the first one. He had done some movies. Veronica
Mm.
Cartwright. They had
Oh, I know her. Yeah.
yeah, Harry Dean Stanton, and then I forget Ian Holm. They had some actors, but none of them were A-list actors.
Right.
And
It
then that they did
helps you
this.
go on the journey, I think, when you
Yeah,
don't know the people, because then they're the characters rather than, oh, this is Charlize Theron giving a good performance. It's like
yeah.
you just you there's a believability when you don't know the actors, which I love.
Well, you have to give actors a chance, right? That's how they get discovered. You give them an opportunity. You give them the role of a lifetime, right? That's how all actors became famous, right? Like you
Yep.
were talking about, just to go back real quick on like The Godfather, right? Al Pacino was already having a great career, but then he played Michael Corleone. Oh my God, you know what I mean? All of a
Yeah.
sudden, bingo, right? Wow, what a performance, right? And then Robert De Niro, right? Bingo. Wow, he was great too. Bingo. And I love that. I love that they get actors who are not known, and boom, they get this role and they just
Yeah.
give it their all, and people just they gravitate to them. They love it, and that's part of the draw to the show, right?
Yep.
So, because if they had A-list actors, that budget would have probably been 350 million, right?
Right.
And
And
yeah,
good actors are good actors, but it can take you out when you're thinking, oh, I've never seen this person do something like this, or they were better in that other movie. It just takes you out. So I really appreciate. I mean, these actors are all working. They're not like newbies, but they were very, very well cast. There is a theme that I didn't recognize fast enough that I want to talk about, this whole thing and how it ties in with Peter Pan. And we're going to talk about it right after this. So, as they are putting this little girl, this bald, sick little girl, on a table to perform this, they're going to transfer her brain to Wendy, she's watching Peter Pan, the actual Disney movie Peter Pan on a screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately thought, how the hell did they get the rights? Disney is very stingy with the rights.
Yeah.
And then as the show goes, and as she is named Wendy, and then all the other, what's the name of the creature that they are? The cyborgs or whatever.
I think they're just synthetics, I believe. I
Okay.
can't. Let me see. Hold on a second. What were they called? Let me
That
see.
checks for me. I'll buy that.
I
But
believe.
they're all, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I believe because there's three types. There's a synthetics. Let me see the hybrid program. Better with downloaded human conscious. Yeah, they're hybrids. Because
Okay.
there's hybrid, and then there's synthetics like um we were
Timothy
talking
Oliphant.
about, like the cast, right? We were talking about the cast real quick.
Hmm.
They brought in Timothy Oliphant, right? And I love
Right.
Timothy Oliphant, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was a synthetic. He wasn't,
Right.
and then there was that other guy who had the arm, and he was half
Morrow.
human. So he's a cyborg. So there's cyborg, there's a fully synthetic, and then there's the hybrids. And Wendy and the Lost Boys, right? They're all considered hybrids because they had their consciousness from the dying kids put into those synthetic bodies.
So I eventually picked up on the fact that it's Wendy and then all the other hybrids are named after the Lost Boys. And I thought, as the show went on, is the whole show a retelling of Peter Pan in some way, with Boy Cavalier being Hook, and there's the Lost Boys, and then the other races are like the Indians, or the, am I onto something, or am I forcing something?
It could be. It's I think the way I interpreted it was that he even named that island Neverland, right? Where he
Neverland,
brings
right?
everyone. I think he's doing that to give a certain comfort level to the hybrids, right? As all of a sudden they're still alive, but they're in another body. Their consciousness is still there, and so because they're kids in adult bodies and they have superpowers now, right?
Right.
It's sort of a fantasy world, right? So he wanted to make this fantasy world, but Boy Cavalier is not who he is, right? He's worse than Captain Hook, right? And and yeah, I think it's just a setup for the kids. It's just to make them feel like, oh, you're in this wonderful. You're now in Neverland. You're in a fantasy world that you're gonna live forever. And they soon find out that it's not Neverland, right? But I
Well,
don't.
I was just hoping for a musical number, but it never came.
And how the aliens dance and all the creatures.
Right? This thing is the opposite of a frothy musical. It is so dark and heavy and intense. I think the intensity was almost too much for me. Boy Cavalier, because I love to analogize and I like to see similarities and frame of reference from known things. Boy Cavalier, I'm going to say, is heavily based on Willy Wonka. What? Did I just crack it?
You know what? That's a possibility. Yeah, I could see that.
And he has his henchmen trying to find the kids, and he's running this whole thing, and he's very wacky and does his own thing. And I was just getting heavy Willy Wonka vibes, although pure evil rather than just mischievous and
No, you know what? That's an
but to
interesting. That's
save
an
the
interesting
children is his
comparison.
mission. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interest. Yeah, he's running his. He sets all the rules, right? But everything's about him too, right? And he's his prodigy, right? Willy Wonka's a prodigy, right? He's his prodigy. He's this brilliant mind, but he's also, as you watch the show, he's also a big a-hole, right? He's
Well,
just a
yeah.
big a-hole. He has to be, right? But
Yeah.
he's very. He's an ego. He's an egomaniac too, right? And he doesn't. These creatures are all of a sudden brought to him because the spaceship in the first episode lands in the city that he owns, right? And so he's like, oh no, since they crashed here, yeah, it's Wayland Yutani ship, but because you guys crashed here, now they belong to me. And right. And then now he wants to experiment, but he doesn't really know how dangerous these creatures are, right? That's his downfall. If you watch the show, that's his downfall. He believes he's so smart that like any egomaniac, he thinks he can control things around him,
Elon
right?
Musk.
He thinks he can control everything, right? But he doesn't know that these creatures are like they're just super lethal, and they have their own agenda, and their agenda is to survive and to take over wherever they're at, right? But he doesn't know that. But that's what makes it good, right? It's like, hey, let's discover how this plays out.
Well, I have to admit that the stuff that was happening, that was Earth with her brother and the plane crash, right? That
Hmm.
was Earth. That stuff confused me. And it is so dark and so intense. And there was such violence, so many people just dying and getting gutted in so many ways.
Oh my God, yeah.
I, I, that was tough for me emotionally to handle. It felt like The Last of Us on HBO, which I tried to do an episode of Make Me a Nerd on. And I almost never give up on a property, but it was too depressing. Like it was too emotional. So I tried to focus more on the fantastical outer space of it all rather than the heartbreak of like a society destroyed. I don't deal well with that. But Wendy's brother is a medic on Earth and he survives the crash and he's there to try to help get out survivors. And Wendy is desperate to go find him and reunite with her brother. That's the stuff I love. That's, the stuff that has heart and emotion. Um, and I got chills when she was able to somehow connect with him like telekinetically through a screen. She was able to, just for a moment, he felt her presence, and that kind of stuff was very powerful.
Oh my God, that show has so many subplots, right? There was just so many. That first I believe they did all that in that first episode because they wanted to attract the viewers who are alien nerds, right? Like, right? They want to attract an audience, but then they wanted to make it bigger. They wanted to make it different than the past movies, and I believe that's why they introduced all the other creatures. They wanted to give it's like people like, oh my God, oh my God, did you see that creature? Boom, let's take it to the next episode. I can't wait to the next episode. And all the characters, I connected with all the characters. Yeah, I love that story with the brother and her and how they connect, and they search for each other, and
Right.
the
Well,
danger
he
that they
thinks
get
she's
in.
dead.
Yeah,
So he's not
yeah.
searching for her. He knows she's
No,
dead.
she's searching for him, right? Because
Yes.
she knows
Yeah.
he's alive, right?
Right.
And she doesn't even in and if you watch it, it takes a while for her to reveal who she really is, right?
Right.
And that's
So
that's
you have naturally, beautiful transition. You have started talking about episode 2, and just the tiny log line is tensions rise between rival corporations. A reunion takes place between Wendy and, what the hell is his name? Martin? No, Joe, the brother,
uh, let me see who's
Hermit,
her.
Joe Hermit, I think. And
Yeah,
the
Joe.
secret
Yeah.
is revealed. Um, so that now we're in that second episode, which has, now we just love Wendy. We just love her. And if you
Oh yeah.
don't, get off my podcast, right? I mean, she's so, uh, you just want to take care of her, but you also know she can take care of anything on her own. She's such a
She's
badass.
she's like your little sister, right? She's like your little sister. You love her. She's got personality. She's got this vulnerable, you know, vulnerable 10-year-old persona. But she's discovering her superpower, right? And she has to, but then she's also navigating this dangerous world, that she doesn't know about. She doesn't know these creatures. I love the whole series, but that second episode is my favorite. I love how they find each other and they have to battle the xenomorph. And that xenomorph, when he escapes, oh my God, he just wreaks havoc everywhere
Yes.
he goes.
What is
And
his
then,
problem?
oh my
Why
God,
so cranky?
that's his nature. That's his nature. He is a vicious savage. He just kills with no impunity. And then you have, and the other part, we're talking about Wendy and her brother. they introduced the other guy, the bat. He's comes from the first episode, right? He's a central figure in there. The gentleman with he's the cyborg, right?
The cyborg Morrow,
Yeah,
his name
yeah.
is.
He's Wayland Yutani's. He's the henchman for Wayland Yutani, right? His sole mission is to make sure, because of the crash, he has to regather all the specimens and make sure that they go back to Wayland Yutani.
Yeah, he is
But
chilling.
oh my God,
I mean, he is
yeah.
heartless,
Oh
yet
wow,
you
yeah.
somehow care about him. The actor's name is Babu Sise.
Oh, he's
And
awesome. He was great role. Wow.
oh, I mean, if I saw him in the wild, I would walk to the other side of the street. I would never, I mean, he is creepy and intense, but a really fine actor who almost seems, I mean, I don't know much about cyborgs, but it's like this is just what he has to do. But there's a humanity behind his eyes, like almost that he hates that he has to do this. He's not just robotic. There's a lot of human life behind the evil for him, I think.
Well, I think he has, if I remember correctly, I believe he has a wife and a daughter or something. And I
That sounds
think,
right.
yeah, and I believe he's almost extorted to do what he has to do, right? Wayland Yutani's got him by the, the sack, right? And
Yeah.
so, but also he plays the actor, he played that role so well. Yeah, he's heartless. I mean, he's driven to get those creatures, and it doesn't matter who gets in the way. And then going into a later episode, how he manipulates one of the lost boys, right, to for his bidding to get the creatures back. That really showed who he really is, right? He's just manipulating this young mind, to get what he wants, regardless of what's going to happen to that synthetic, right? It's just he's vicious. He's just as bad as the creatures on the show. I think to me he was like he was just as bad as one of them.
Absolutely. And speaking of the young minds, I have a question about the hybrids. Uh, when they arrive on Earth, they they go into the wreckage to try to find the brother and whatever they're trying to find. That's part of the thread that I lost. But they see dead body after dead body, and they have no emotional reaction to it.
Mm-mm.
Why? They're kids. They're human 13-year-olds or 11-year-olds. Why wouldn't they be terrified and sad to see all these dead bodies?
That's an interesting question. I think because they're so young and they've just never seen it, right? And then they were they were they were they were sent on a mission by Boy Cavalier to go to the ship and retrieve all the specimens that are on there, and retrieve everything before Wayland Yutani gets her hands back on them. And yeah, they're just, oh my God, they're just like coming across. I think it's just they've never seen it. They don't have the experience. They don't have the knowledge of what that is. And at the same time, they're still exploring their new body, right? They're exploring their new surroundings. My God, it's like they're thrown into this absurd situation, and they've yet to figure out who they really are again. They were saved, and they haven't even had time to grow up. They don't know anything really, right? They're still young minds, and so they see something, and they don't know what a dead body is. They don't know what they're coming across.
Respectfully, I would disagree that any kid, they know death because they were given a diagnosis like you're going to die, you're not going to live to be an adult, and they chose to become hybrids so that they could live, so they understand the concept of life and death. I just question that they're supposed to be our emotional characters, right? Not the cyborgs, not the what the hell of the synthetics, but these are our emotional characters, and they were just stepping over bloody dead bodies as if nothing. So
I think just for me, it's just that they just they didn't know how to react to it in a way too. They've never seen it, and maybe that's maybe the writers wanted to write it that way so they didn't have to take the story into another part about how the kids' reactions to
yeah,
that. They
they
just
would
wanted to
run.
continue.
They would have just cried and run away
Yeah,
and then story
they just
over,
wanted them
maybe.
to be there and then just continue on with their search, right, and to find the other creatures. Um, Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, they are kids. They do have emotions. They do have fears and insecurities. But I think just the premise that they were in, it's just like, hey, let's, oh my God, move on, right? Because
Yeah.
that was the whole goal of them. So
Yeah. We are getting to the final episode. I watched 1, 2, and 8 on your recommendation, and we're going to tackle this final episode. And I want to hear all about your book when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. While I have your attention, I'd like to tell you all that Make Me a Nerd is a production of True Story FM, engineering by the peerless Pete Wright. My music is Wonderstruck by Jane and the Boy. You can find me on socials if you want. Instagram at Mandy_Kaplan_Clavens, both with K's, or on TikTok at Mandy Miscast. And hey, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, or if you have Apple Podcasts, would you please write a review, 5 stars, and then leave a comment? That's a way that more people can discover my podcast, which is why I'm doing this whole thing, and I'm loving this whole thing. And if you're feeling really supportive, please go to makemeanerd.com/join, and $5 a month will get you your episodes ad free and early, and I'd be really grateful. One more thing I want to say is that Make Me a Nerd is a part of this family of podcasts called True Story FM, and they have tons of fantastic shows. One of my favorites is the Most Excellent 80s Movie Podcast, hosted by one of everybody's favorite guests on my show, Chrissy Lenz. They did an Aliens episode, season 3, episode 1. So if you want to hear more aliens talk, check out the Most Excellent 80s Movie Podcast. It's a lot of my voice. Too much. There is a podcast about alien Earth. Have you listened to the podcast?
no, I didn't know. Oh my God, thank you. That's why, you know what? That's why I go on podcasts. A lot of times I go on podcasts to talk about my book, but you know what? Every podcast I'm learning something new, and that's beautiful, right? Because I go in there with an open mind, and because I don't know everything, right? I don't know everything, and I go in there like that. It's like, hey, go on there. My God, I've learned so much about a lot of things just from talking to other people and their viewpoints and respecting their viewpoints. And it's like, man, that's awesome, right? And it's like, boom, now look at that. You tell me about, I got to find this podcast, right?
Yeah, it's an official podcast. Like on my Hulu, when I was watching it, you can select listen to the podcast. So I know it's out there, and I bet you would get lots of inside info, BTS stuff that you would love and could nerd out about. Rick, while I have you here, Rick, let's talk about your book. You have written and published a book in the Wolfman genre. Can you tell me about it?
It's sure. I would love to. Thank you. It's actually, it's a werewolf story, but it covers romance, covers paranormal, romantasy, supernatural, adventure, thriller. My book is called The Dancing Wolfman, Volume 1, and it's Wolfman with an E because my protagonist's last name is Wolf of all things, right? A guy named
Uh-huh.
last name Wolf becomes a Wolfman. So the premise is he's a high school music teacher by day and a DJ by night. Music's been in his life since he was a baby. His father is a sound engineer. His mom worked at a record shop. They've been playing music every day since he grew up. He learned how to dance. He became a great dancer. Music came natural to him. He can hear the notes, the melodies, the rhythms. He was a natural with everything, and then people gravitated toward him to ask him, "Hey, you're a great dancer. Hey, show me this move. I'm not doing so well. Hey, what about this? What about this note?" And so that's where his love for teaching came, because he could have done something else. He could have been something else. Smart guy. He's a excellent athlete. He was a high school track star, took it to college. And then later on,
But he's been a wolfman all the whole time,
no.
or he
So what
discovers
happens
that
is,
later in life.
yeah. So what happens in the beginning of the book, he's coming from a gig because he's a DJ on the weekends. He's coming back from a gig in Sonoma County. And I set the story in the San Francisco Bay Area because that's where I grew up.
Sure.
And, you know, wow, there's a Wolfman in the Bay Area now. That's awesome, right? And so he's coming back, going home from Sonoma, and he encounters this wolf and becomes a wolf later.
Gotcha.
And in his first transformation, um, he's hoping that something will save him because he knows when he becomes a wolfman, he's going to probably end up killing somebody,
Right.
at least one. So he's hoping that something will save him, and hopefully music, because he loves music. He's hoping,
Hmm.
but then once he turns to the wolfman, he can't. He falls to the
He
instincts
has,
of the wolfman.
yes, you have
Yeah,
to follow that. I've
yeah, of course.
narrated a lot of these lichen books, so I am quite familiar, weirdly, because I'm
Yeah,
a
but
voiceover narrator as well.
but what happens with my story? Here's the twist. So right before he kills this, right where he's about to mutilate that first victim, it's this lady jogging in the woods, and
Uh-huh.
she's playing
Oh,
music from her iPhone, right?
uh,
And so she has her earbuds on.
mm-hmm.
So he's waiting for her, and because his senses are heightened, he hears music in her earbuds, and then that little music starts changing his consciousness, and then all
Uh-huh.
of a sudden he's Titus again, Titus Wolf.
Okay.
He's Titus Wolf, but he's still
Yeah.
a wolf man. And because he's not a killer, he can't come, come, he can't come to that point where he doesn't know how to kill.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead he lets her be. He just looks at her and takes off, comes back again because he's smitten with her, comes back in again, and he saves her the second time he transforms. So he becomes a savior and a protector as the story
Gotcha.
progresses. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much what the story is. So that's the big twist. It's not a
All
regular
right.
Wolfman story. It has romance. There's I don't have a lot of swearing in there. I think the word shit is the worst word I used.
Oh, my ears. Where
so
can people get the book?
so I have a website at
Mm-hmm.
dancingwolfman.com
With an
with
E.
an E. You can
Mm-hmm.
buy my book right there. But as soon as you land on the homepage, there's a button right there. It's
Great.
also available on Amazon, on
Great.
Thrift Books, Walmart, Apple
Great.
Books. And then also I'm going to get it distributed worldwide pretty soon.
Great.
But
Great.
I would love to for you to get on the website. And one thing too, to follow what you said earlier about leaving reviews. Um, if any of your audience members buys the book and you really love it, or if you don't, please, 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 wherever you buy it, leave a review. Because again,
Yes.
just like Mandy said, when you leave reviews, it helps. It doesn't just help the book get discovered; it helps other readers discover the book, right? Because some
Yes.
people might be searching for something new, and it's like bingo. It's like the search engine picks up on that, and they start
Yes.
ranking you higher, and it's easier to find because of the
Preach.
reviews. Yeah.
Yes. Uh, Excellent, everybody. Those links will be in the show notes. So everybody can get the book and let me know what you think. And you're talking about Wolfman, which ties beautifully into The Real Monsters, episode 8, the final episode of the season. And this is when I finally looked up the actress playing Dame Sylvia, Essie Davis. And the whole time I was like, she's so familiar. She's so familiar. She's the lead actress in The Babadook. Have you ever seen The Babadook?
No, I don't. You mean the English lady, right?
Australian.
Oh, she's
Yeah.
Australian. Oh, I
Mhm.
loved her in the series. No, but I've never seen her.
This
Yeah.
movie, it's one of the best horror films I've ever seen. I did it for the podcast with Tommy Metz. So if anybody's interested, there's an episode on The Babadook. I cannot recommend this movie enough.
What's it called?
Babadook. Babadook. Babadook.
Oh, it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
I gotta
And it's
check it out.
really
Thank you.
freaking good. Yes.
Gotta check it
But
out.
her character for me is like hard to pin down. And because I missed a bunch of episodes, she seems like she cares about the hybrids. She seems to be a good person wrapped up in a bad world. But then she is taken hostage with the bad guys. She's lumped in with them. Is that justice, or is that because help me fill in the blanks for the episodes I missed? Tell me about
I
Dame Sylvia.
No, I don't. That's the one part I didn't like because I loved her character. I think she was just doing what she was doing. Boy Cavalier. She was doing his bidding pretty much. Yeah, she probably got paid a lot of money, but she was doing his bidding. And I agree with you. I believe that she deeply cared for these kids, right? For these
Yeah.
hybrids that are coming up, you know. And at the end, where you know Wendy makes her look like she's a bad guy, and she's not. She was just doing her job pretty much. Um,
Hmm.
um, I mean, it kind of gets very political in that sense, right? But to me, I didn't like that part. I didn't like it. I think to me, if I had written it, I would have made her I would have made her a protagonist, right? I would have made her part of the core because she was just doing what she was doing.
Right.
Boy Cavalier, he's got his hands on everything.
But
And
that's an interesting thing to dive into and debate.
mhm,
She was part of the system.
mhm.
And so you can't, I'm trying not to use political names right now, but if you are if you're tacit and agreeing to be a part of those things, you are guilty. Now, you may have better intentions or you may care, but in a way, I agree. Yep, you were part of the bad guys. Get in the cell and get tied to the wall.
I agree because the other part of it too, right? The flip side of that is, yeah, she was doing what she was told, but Wendy doesn't see that, right? It's like, hey, you're still working for Boy Cavalier. You had a choice. You didn't have to do what you did, right? You could have walked away, right? So she
There it
doesn't
is.
see that part, right? But she's also a scientist, right? She's a scientist and she's coming up on this brand new technology, this magnificent technology that can save people. So in a way, kind of to me, Wendy didn't really, she wasn't emotionally attached to that part. She didn't really understand what she was doing.
Right.
So it's twofold, right? Yeah, she's a protagonist, but she's also, you can look at her as a villain because she's a follower, right? And she had a choice. If you kind of look at it, when you go back, if you see the whole series, Manny, in certain part she did have a choice. She could have the story could have changed, or she could have changed her mind and and look at it like, hey, in an ethical way. It's like, hey, you know what we're doing, yeah, it's great, we're saving lives, but these kids, what are we doing to these young minds? We're giving them powers that that normal kids don't have, and they're gonna, what are we doing? You know what I mean? What is the end game to this, right? So
Yes.
there you go.
Those are all the bigger questions raised. Wendy, I think, God, it was so chilling and exciting. All the Lost Boys are saying, what do we do? How do we, get out of the situation, or what do we do? And she says, I'm going to do a dramatic reading of a line of dialogue here. She says, all this time we've been afraid of them, but I think they should be afraid of us.
I
And it's
love
like
that.
the moment the kids realize they are invincible and they're going to turn the tables and they're
Oh,
going to take over.
that's beautiful. I loved it. Mandy, it was funny. I was on this podcast and I briefly brought up the aliens, the alien thing, and the gentleman, he didn't like that part, where the kids took over. He goes, "What's that about?" And the other thing, I don't know if you were going to get into how she learns how to talk to the xenomorph, right? The xenomorph kind of, he, he understands her chirping, right? And because in a lot of the movies, if you go back, the xenomorphs know what an animal is, what a victim is, and they know what the cyborgs are, right? The synthetics. They don't kill the synthetics per se, and so that was an interesting twist right there. I love that. So, because this guy told me, he goes, "Oh, I don't like it that the alien became her pet," and it's like, I don't think she became. I don't think the alien became her pet. The alien, they formed a relationship.
Yeah. They're
You know,
just a way to communicate
yeah,
and
yeah. He wasn't her pet, and and she prevented him from killing all the people at the end. But I think that was just she talked to him in a very intelligent way, because those creatures, they're just not vicious killers. One of the things, so they're very smart, right? They're very intelligent creature. He's got a big brain in there somewhere in that big old head of his, right? But to me, I didn't see it as a pet. I saw him more as a collaboration.
yeah. And I did miss, because I didn't watch every episode. I was a little thrown when she made a noise and he stopped, and I was like, "What the hell just happened?"
You got to see that.
But I I think what it says. I'm gonna get deep. I don't know, Pete, if you have a sound effect for when I get deep. It happens so rarely. The idea that the hybrids deciding, oh, wait, we are invincible, we can take over, is what our deepest fears are about AI right now. It's going to
Hmm.
outsmart us, right? This
Yeah,
creation of humanity is going to outsmart us and take over.
yeah. I think that's a perfect analogy. Oh my God, that's and it leaves a cliffhanger, right? Like, what's going to happen next? It's I just read an article yesterday. Was it yesterday or Friday? Somebody shut off a program, an AI program, and the AI decided they wanted to shut down. They made a copy of themselves, right? I forget what it was, and that's like, oh my god, that's like the Terminator, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cyborg
That's
systems, right? Oh my
the
god, right?
reason I don't sleep at night is stories
It's
like
like,
that.
oh my
Thank you, Rick
god,
London.
yeah, yeah. So it's like, I, I, I agree with you about that ending. About the all of a sudden you got these mechanical creatures with a human consciousness, and then all of a sudden they're the badasses, right? That's a scary situation, right? Everybody, it's like people probably thought about that. It's like, oh my God, the robots are taking over the world, right?
I mean, I think that's the message. I could be wrong. Uh, so therefore, this was my favorite episode, big time, because I have an overblown sense of justice, and these kids getting to rise up and kidnap their creators and take over. That's the stuff I get off on. Like, I love a good revenge plot. So I know you liked episode 2 the best, and I respect that, but this one had me cheering when the bad guy is face to face with Wendy Boy Cavalier, and he says, like, what do I do? And she just says, run.
Run.
It's,
No,
oh yeah,
I
Wendy.
I love the last episode. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. It's the best one. The reason why I love the second episode, because the xenomorph goes crazy, and
Yeah.
it reminded me of the Alien movies. Now, let me give you something scary to ponder. We haven't covered this. How about that creature that looks like the eye, and it
Oh
has eight
God.
eyes and then one eye, and it has all that
Like
creature to me
an
is more
eye with
deadlier than a
tentacles.
xenomorph. That thing is vicious.
Also, in this episode, we see a human or a guy who looks human on a beach dead at the beginning of the episode. And at the end, um, he reaches up like and pops his eyeball out. And I wrote, oh, come on, eyeballs don't pop out that easy. But then it becomes that creature with the, oh God, these little eyeballs. Oh God, there were so many bug like Rick, I almost keyed your car if I knew where you lived and what you drove. With that thing, I'd give anything to unsee that squishy thing crawl under the collar of the soldier. I can still feel it, and I really truly couldn't watch it when it reemerged. But even the sound design of that, do you know what I'm talking about? That big slug-like bug thing that went
Mhm.
down his,
Oh my
oh,
God,
Rick,
that it's
I
all the
almost, I almost called it. Ugh.
well, that's the beauty of the show, right? They it's not just about the xenomorph, right? It's going back to the alien roots, right? But then they introduce all these other species that they gathered, right? And where did they come from? You have the slug, yeah, that goes in there and just, oh my God, right?
Mm.
And then did you have those bugs, those flying bugs with the wings that they look like giant hornets, and they
I
spit
don't
out.
think so.
They also
There's more
what
spitting?
do they
Oh,
say?
great.
They got that one. You got to go back and see it, but they have this one episode where they do something right, and they show how deadly they are. Then you have that eyeball. My God, that that thing is, again, to me, that is because that little thing is also it's also has a it's highly intelligent, and but it's um I think it was in episode 8, the last episode. Remember he's in the man's eyeball and they're fighting on the ship, and then he attacks the xenomorph, and the xenomorph couldn't even, like, he's going crazy
Yeah.
because the
Oh,
it's trying to penetrate him, right? And
yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, that creature's worse than the xenomorph. It's like, where do they get this stuff? It's brilliant. It's brilliant where they come up with this.
You know what I love? We are wrapping up, believe it or not, but I love how childlike you are when you talk about it because that's the fun of this stuff, right? It gets you feeling like, yeah, yeah. And then this creature like goes on his face and he can't, right? That's what all of this should be. It should be entertaining and it should make us feel fantastical and childlike and like anything is possible. And Alien Earth really does that. It is on the very, very gruesome side. I'm warning everybody. But if you like that, if you can handle gruesome, that's what this gives you, that childlike glee at this world. It's very immersive and very well made.
It's very nerdy, right? The nerds love stuff like that. That's funny. I'm on your podcast, and I'm like, and I'm looking at the title. I'm like, am I a nerd too? you know what? Nerds rule the world right now. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's
spoiler
like,
alert, Rick,
yeah.
you're a nerd.
Yeah, I am. I am. Because
It's
I like that about that you said that. Yeah, in many ways, my wife says that too. She goes, "Oh my God, you're a kid." And a lot of the movies that I like, my wife doesn't. She doesn't care for. Mainly because that's just how I grew up. I grew up in the '70s, and there was a lot of good movies from the '70s, but there was a lot of campy movies and a lot of garbage movies too. And every decade has that. But I
sure.
grew up. I grew up to it, and I always gravitated toward sci-fi, horror, adventure,
Yep.
and even now I'm 62. I just turned 62 last month. But you know what?
Happy
I'm still a
birthday.
kid at heart. It's like
Yes.
I'm still a kid at heart, and that's okay. That's who I am. And it's like I don't fight that. So
That's great. And you've written a book, and I'm so impressed by people who set a goal, go for it, and get it done. So, congratulations on that.
thank you.
And congratulations on making me a nerd about Alien Earth. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. And again, please go watch the rest episodes. And you know what, if you watch, you said you watch 1, 2, and 8,
Hmm.
watch 3 to 7, and that'll set you up to understand what really happens in
Yeah.
episode 8. Yeah.
Yeah. I did read little summaries of plots just so I could, understand where I was. But I'm still having nightmares about the squishy bug and the eyeballs and oof. Thank you.
Remember, it's made up. It's not real.
God, I hope so. Okay. Thank you, Rick London. Nice to meet you. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Until next time.